I say hello, you say yellow. Hello.
Yellow, I'm not doing this.
Hello.
Really?
Come on! I'm the hype man. Mike, how are you?
I'm good.
Yellow! Yellow! See, we've got Dave on the podcast. How are you, Dave?
I'm very well, thanks.
We know he's the Undertaker.
You're the hype man.
I'm the hype man to counterbalance Dave.
I've heard you called a lot of things in your time, mate, but the hype man.
I'm not saying I'm good at it. Well, welcome from the Recruit. We are here in Stratford, looking upon the stadium formerly known as the Olympic Stadium, about to go and see Watford against West Ham. My name is John. With me, as you've already heard, is Mike.
Good afternoon.
And let's put his introduction music on. Mr. David Levy. Hello, David.
Hello.
Welcome.
How's Paul Bearer, mate? Is he okay?
Very good.
So we're about to go and see to a brand new stadium. And it got
Brand
me
new football stadium.
Yeah, it's true. Brand new home for West Ham. We'll talk about the game after the game, because we haven't got there yet, a bit later on. But this got me thinking, boys, about moving and or maybe change, more like. And the fact that West Ham fans have gone through a change, and here they are at the Olympic Stadium. I'm going to be really honest with you. That stadium has many memories, and it's a stadium that lots of people will look fondly upon because of gold medals that were won there in the Olympic Games.
Yep. And the Paralympic Games.
And the Paralympic Games.
Well done, David.
But I don't want to seem... It's not me winding up West Ham fans and trying to be for banter or whatever, but that just looks like, having walked past it on our way here, like they've put a big sticker on the side of a stadium to saying, and this is ours. Am I wrong, Mike?
I think, to be perfectly honest, I think they've done a pretty decent job. You can see it from miles around. I think there's some West Ham fans have complained it's too white, not enough claret and blue. But yeah, I think they've done a pretty good job, really. It looks professional, it looks pretty slick. And, I have to be honest, there's something quite nice about going to a ground where all the paths are nice and wide and it's easy to walk to and everything's signposted. From a purely logistical point of view, it's all right, that's fine for a football stadium. You and I and Dave here all like a bit of an American sport, and we're used to these sort of big out-of-town type arenas that are purpose-built for sport, and so many oldie-worldy football grounds aren't. So on one level, I haven't got a problem with it, but that's because it's not our home.
Yeah. I mean, my follow-up question to that, Mike, was going to be, well, what if Watford was to have a new stadium?
My first reaction would be I'd be absolutely gutted, absolutely mortified, because Vicarage Road is Vicarage Road. We've lost count of the times we've been there, lost count of the amazing things we've seen there, lost count of the terrible things we've seen there. We've all got memories with family, with friends, with meeting people, with being too drunk, with not being drunk enough. There's so much wrapped up in that place, and to leave it would be heartbreaking. So I completely understand where West Ham supporters are coming from, in as much as they've left the Boleyn Ground, which was quite unique in as much as it was smallish, it's tight, it's right in sort of inner city sort of London, the area it was in. It felt like that was West Ham's home. There's no two ways about it. So to move from that to this shiny new, what is a great stadium, for athletics and for the Olympics, it was amazing. We'll perhaps reserve judgment on what it's like on a football ground until we've actually been in and watched a game there. But so I understand where they're coming from. I'd be mortified to leave Vicarage Road, but if we were going to leave, it would mean that we're going forward, wouldn't it? It would mean progress, it would mean reaching a little bit further and stretching ourselves. So that's something that we've got to perhaps steel ourselves for. If the Pozzos are going to take us forward, ultimately, 5, 10, 15 years, a move might be on the cards.
Dave, we play the Undertaker music when you come on. That's because you are slightly more cynical than maybe me, and only a little bit more cynical than Mike. But after that little chat there, I don't think it sounds that cynical for Mike. We had you on, I don't know, February, March time, when at that point, nothing felt bad on the pitch at Watford. It didn't turn out that way at the end of the season. And the only thing we sort of had to grumble about was the Premier League itself. Now, they're not the only team to have to move stadium, are they? Spurs are out too. They have to build these new stadiums.
Yeah.
Liverpool have built a brand new stand.
Yeah.
And the reason they've done it, I saw a press release or a press conference, and their owner said, it's the thing that will make us be able to compete for the title. West Ham, this is going to make them a new level, maybe, in terms of finance, because they don't own it, they're just paying a rent and the new Premier League money. Is there a cynical side of you that says teams that are only doing this are going to be going to new stadiums for the sake of it, but actually it's not going to make that much of a difference?
Yeah, we could all get the deal that West Ham got with the local authority, and I think we'd all be happy to move into a new stadium. And I'm looking forward to going to it today. Like you, I went during the Olympics and Paralympics, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it is as a football stadium. I bought my binoculars because I hear that we might be quite a long way from the football. Yeah. Although, given how we started the season, that might not be such a bad thing to see or to not see as Payet runs through our defence. Listen, football's
long, did it?
Listen, football's an emotive sport by definition. We're here because we're emotionally invested in our football club and our team. And so, like Mike said, you have a lot of history and memories and personal ones wrapped up in where you watch your football team. We like doing away days, but most of the time, the majority of matches that you see at Watford are at home and at Vicarage Road. And because it's an old stadium, and because of where it is, and because you walk past the allotments, and because it's just outside the town centre, it's completely unique. It's, you know, when I went to Goodison last season, that was fantastic, and that too is the same. You walk past people's front doors and then you walk to the stadium. These ones, don't get sort of stir the heart or the emotions as much as, you know, when you go to. I always think when you go to places like Derby and Leicester and Coventry, other than the colours, you could be at any stadium, or it's the same stadium but with different colours. And West Ham will be different because it was the Olympic Stadium, and so it has a lot of memories for that. But there are a lot of West Ham fans. They're a massive club, huge club. All of Essex will have travelled down today to come and watch West Ham, and so they want more capacity. And I totally understand when I've done that. Watford's different because it goes back to the question of what sort of a club do we want to be? Are we happy being little old Watford? There is a bit of me that quite likes the fact, and I've talked about this before, that a few years ago I could just walk in at 5 to 3, not have to queue, no problem, and now it's more difficult. And that's a good problem to have because you're in the Premier League and it's fun. But sort of a roundabout way of saying I'm not really sure. Let's talk after the game about how it goes. Spurs are building a new stadium, but it's still right next to where White Hart Lane was, so that's very much in the community. This is a little bit different. It feels a bit more sanitised, but it's a part of London that's hugely changed, and it's an amazing part of London. If you look at what's happened in Stratford, here, Hackney over the last 10, 15, 20 years with the Olympics coming, it's absolutely incredible. I guess the thing with Watford is I don't know where we'd go. Yeah. There is no obvious area that we would go to. Personally, if you go behind Watford Junction where my train arrives into, that'd be great.
It's all about David Levy, of course. I think the thing it flags up for me, and I did a piece for ESPN this week, and I said what it makes me realise is that football fans are so hard to please. They're impossible to please. They want to be able to get tickets. So, there's Watford fans upset they couldn't get tickets today, which I understand. They want tickets. They want good facilities. They want good pubs near the ground. They want good atmosphere in the ground. They don't want there to be too many away fans. They don't want there to be too few away fans. What football fans are very, very hard to please. So I think the stadium is very emotive, and it's always going to be hard to get it right. Ideally, what you do is almost kind of like what Udinese have done, and kind of remodel that old stadium, which was in desperate need of updating. They've done it, and now it looks modern. It looks new. But the fans there have got something they can be proud of. It's their old ground. They recognise it.
But the thing is, my first ever Watford game was the first day that the Graham Taylor stand was opened. And the rest of that ground in 30 years has changed massively.
Yeah.
You mean the Rouse stand?
Yeah.
Because if you only started going when the Graham Taylor stand opened, you could accuse you of being a Johnny come lately.
Yeah. No, it was called the Rouse stand. And at that point, they'd literally finished building it, which I think you helped out in. Was that right, Mike?
I did, yeah. We went to back when I was a kid. We used to persuade Mum just to take us there for no reason, just to look in the Hornet shop to buy like a postcard of, I don't know, Dave Bamber or something. And yeah, we ended up sort of helping stir the concrete or something for the mix for the Rouse stand. So yeah, I've laid claim to building some of that. If you've seen a bit cracking, that's probably my bit.
We're sort of agreed that you wouldn't be worried if Watford didn't move away from Vicarage Road, but develop the stadium further.
That'd be nice. You'd be interested to see how it would happen. I think the thing that the bigger issue that cuts coming to West Ham today is that whole thing about change and how big, what sort of concessions are you willing to make as a football supporter for your club to progress like we all want it to. We've heard in recent reports that perhaps Udinese are looking at selling the naming rights to the stadium to Red Bull, who are fast becoming like the enemy of the true football fan. They took over Leipzig and they took over Salzburg, and people hate them. They're just synonymous with like new money coming into the game, and so Udinese fans are absolutely up in arms at the Red Bull Arena being their stadium. But that's the Pozzos are doing that, who we trust absolutely inherently. But are they going to, in future, I just wonder what sort of difficult decisions are they going to have to make to keep this trajectory upwardly mobile, just to keep us moving on. There's going to have to be some tough decisions in the future. It's not going to be this year, it's not going to be next year, but I think what it does flag up for me is that we need to look to the future, and we're looking at the Olympic Stadium now. Is that our future, or is it something else? And it's a really interesting thing to ponder, what that future shape is.
I will say that, and I know I'm here to be negative, but I don't want to play up to that, but I think the Pots has done a great job with Vicarage Road. I mean, if you look at the stadium now that we sit in for home matches, compared to 3 or 4 years ago, it's totally different. I've moved stands, and I'm really happy with the view I've got from the stand, but just the facilities, the shop, everything, the environment, they've got that right. They've clearly ploughed a lot of money into that, and that's good. But Mike's right, that will only take us so far, because you can't fit more than 20-ish thousand people into the stadium. And yeah, we're getting a huge amount of money from TV rights, and this was the most important season to be in the Premier League because of the money, and that's allowed us to invest in a lot more players, and I'm looking forward to seeing Pereira and Janmat today, etc. But at some point, if we can build a stadium that's got 35,000 people in, or 40,000, now questions about whether we've got the catchment area to do that. But if we're in the Premier League and we can get 35, 40,000 people in capacity stadium, then you just got to think that's a financially wise decision to do, to bring in that amount of investment every day.
I think we'll never compete, because Liverpool's new stand holds 18,500, one of their 4 stands. It's the biggest. It's a colossal thing what they've built. So we will never be able to keep up with the Joneses.
No, but there are leagues within leagues, aren't there? We're not in the same league as Liverpool. They're a massive global mega power club thingy brand, and we're not. And
let's not fall into the trap that big ground means success.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not fall into that trap. It's about the future and what the best future is for our football club, and I think that's different for everyone else. That pattern, that blueprint, it's obvious for Liverpool to extend that stand. It worked for them. It's obvious for Tottenham. They worked hard to but what does our future? And I think it's an interesting question, and perhaps we'll ponder further as we walk to the ground now. But what does the future look like for Watford in 10 years? How do we get to be a Europa League side? How do we get to be someone maybe even challenging for the league? Who knows? How, what are the steps that we're going to need to take there? That's the interesting thing that I've been thinking about this week. Anyway, it's getting late. Let's go to the game.
Okay, I think about that during the game. Let's ponder our way towards, with that question, what does Watford's future look like as we go towards the former Olympic Stadium?
A podcast made by Watford fans for Watford fans. From the Rookery end.
So, I can officially say that's the best stadium ever.
Well, first things first, we're going to keep your feet on the ground. I wouldn't want to watch...
the best stadium ever.
Well, listen, I wouldn't want to watch my football there every week. I'd like to watch that game there every week. So just I'm going to cover off what we were talking about before we went in. It is an impressive stadium inside. It's an impressive site. The acoustics are rubbish, and the West Ham fans hate it. They were fighting amongst themselves. That's that dealt with.
Yeah. Let's talk about what happened on the pitch.
Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. What an afternoon! What an afternoon! No one saw it coming. Certainly after 35 minutes when we were 2-0 down, they were rabonering crosses in left, right, and centre. Andy and I, my brother, looked at each other and said, they're just taking the PRSS. They're taking the mick out of us. They felt it was going to be a walk in the park, and at that stage, it really was. Unfortunately, it felt again like that game against Stoke away last year, where it felt like a cup game. We're the Championship side, and we're trying desperately to hang on and stay in the contest. And yeah, it looked like boys against men for the first sort of 30-35 minutes. There were little flashes from Watford, but nothing. There was no foothold. There was no solid foothold in that game at all.
But I wouldn't say West Ham. They didn't have a phase that game where in the first half where it was 10 minutes bombard. They were definitely, Andy, your brother's here. Andy, they weren't Arsenal, and they were. I didn't feel like they were bombarding us, and we were completely on the back foot. We just weren't doing our thing.
No, I don't. Like you say, they weren't bombarding our goal or anything. But I think it's fair to say they were in control. That first 35 minutes, given the option. They're bringing in an extra sub for the FA Cups, I think. If they could have brought in 11, we'd have taken the lot off. They were in control, and we needed something to happen because we weren't really having any part of the game. We didn't look like an attacking force at all, and we just needed something to happen. And that came with Igalo getting a deflected shot off James Collins, I think.
What I would say is that, and this is ridiculous, that we've sort of standing on a slightly downbeat note, but I think it's only right that we do look at the first.
We're building, Mike, we're building.
Absolutely, just like our beloved Watford. Yes. But I didn't even at 2-0, I didn't, the rational thing in you says this could be 3-4-0. but I didn't feel like we were totally out of it, because there were some little flashes and there were some little passages of play where Watford moved the ball around quite nicely to limited effect in that first sort of 35, 36, 37 minutes. It felt like there might be something. It felt like we might be able to nick a goal before half-time, and luckily we obviously learnt from Arsenal, because it could have... Jan passed one against the post, he played a 1-2 with the post, and that goes in, and it really is game over. It would have been a very different game. So I didn't feel like we were out of it, despite the slightly disappointing nature of that first sort of most of the first half, really.
Dave, it didn't feel like West Ham were really going to be pushing us, but also their goals they scored was a defensive error on our part for both the first two.
Yeah, although that bit from Payet was sublime skill, Rabona or not, and whether it's showboating or whatever, he's an exceptionally talented player, and that was brilliant. Yeah, back post defending for both was pretty poor, and it just took all the momentum out of us. And the first goal took all the momentum out, and then they came on to our second goal, just Cathcart letting Antonio get across him at the far post. But sometimes you just got to say that's too good. It doesn't really matter now because we won 4-2. Yeah. So that was amazing. But yeah, the first half an hour was pretty poor. And it looked like being a very, very long afternoon at that point, and I'm starting to get seriously worried.
David, I want you to think about this one. Out of the 4 goals, what was the best? What was the most important? Have a think about that. The 2 goals got before half-time. For me, the headline out of that one, which from our point of view is a goal from Deeney, a goal from Ighalo in the Premier League.
100%, that's exactly what we were saying before the game. We need to get those boys up and running. They're confidence players. I was really impressed with Ighalo in the second half against Arsenal. I thought he started putting himself around, he was making little runs, he was making a nuisance of himself, and he did that again today. And he's got his goal. I mean, Jamie Collins must have absolute nightmares about this guy. When he closes his eyes at night, he must see Odin Ighalo bearing down and breathing down his neck, because we've run him ragged now twice in 3 games, and if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have probably won the game. So thank you for listening, Jamie. But yeah, huge credit to both those guys. And I thought as the game wore on, Ighalo was asking more and more questions. Obviously, Deeney, I think, was buoyed by that goal. Magical finish. What a great finish. We've had a chance to look over it. Some West Ham fans were lamenting the goals on the train, and we sort of quietly peered over and watched them. And he just was so relaxed when to take it. And that's those boys up and running now. So that's a huge tick in the box. It's just really exciting. And they've got a win. Those guys have got goals under their belt, and I'm jumping around a little bit, but the substitutions Matsari made as well, they helped to see the game out very, very comfortably. But to talk about that first half, Gomez didn't make a save pretty much in the entire game. Yeah. He came and took some crosses, he punched one away, but he didn't make a save in the entire game. But yeah, to answer your question, what a massive plus getting those boys up and running.
But I don't think we've ever seen a goal like that from Deeney before.
Well, not from that far away, certainly. It's not a great vantage point. Initially, I thought he'd sort of trying to stand it up at the back post for someone to head it in, and when he he lofted it, I thought, that's a decent effort, but no one's going to get to it. And then I thought, you just watch the arc of it, and like I say, having seen it back again, that was striker's instinct. That was someone who was completely in the zone, completely relaxed. He didn't snatch it. He knew he had that little postage stamp in the top right-hand corner to drift it into. Perfectly executed, and he's answered his critics with a great performance and a goal when it counted, almost from nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, from where we were at the other end of the pitch there, I thought it was almost like a cross. But you look at it and you think, oh, maybe he meant it like, let's get it near the goal and maybe a deflection will come down. But actually seeing it on the replay, he absolutely pinpointed that. He meant it to go where it went. Andy, the man who sort of we were hoping to see a lot of and to impact the squad was Pereira, and he did.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, actually. Talking to Mike, because I sort of came out of that game not knowing whether he had a good game or not, because he had some moments in the first half, but then I forgot he was playing at times as well. But certainly in the second half, and he came to life again, I think, and there was some real flashes of what a great player we've got there. I think he looks like a player, and I think he's got to find his feet. In previous podcasts, you talk about players who've gone like Suarez, who couldn't settle. Yeah. He seems to be settling in well, and I think we've got a great player there. But
what I like about Pereira is that we've lamented. That's the second time I've said that in the podcast. I get these words that I like, don't I? And then I just go with them. I'm so unimaginative. But we've complained really that Watford haven't moved the ball quick enough, and they haven't changed the transition quick enough. They haven't gone from defence to midfield and tried to convert that into an attack. But today, the movement was there, and they were getting the ball out wide, and Jan Mack got forward, Hollebass got forward, had another good game, I thought. And I think that is down to Pereira. I think he looks so. Andy called him a player, and I think everyone who knows football will understand that and will agree with that. He just looks completely confident with the ball, but not just that. He looks confident, and he looks like he's going to do something with it that's going to cause the opposition problems. And it doesn't matter if he drifts in and out of the game a bit, because his job is to get his ball, make the little play. Almost, he's a playmaker, isn't he? And I think he did that really well today, and it's exciting.
You've got to not just think about the people who scored the goals and the new boys we talk about. Dave Barami I think, almost cemented himself as in that starting 11.
Yeah, we knew that he was Matsari's favourite because he played for him before, but he was brilliant today. Absolutely everywhere. Leicester had this expression last season that in midfield they played Drinkwater and then Kante played both sides of him. Today I felt like Capoue and Pereira had Barami everywhere. And actually his impact mirrored Watford's sort of rise and fall in the game, or fall and rise, because the first 30 minutes he couldn't quite get on it and we were behind, but he stamped his authority on the game, really shut down space that Payet and Lanzini had, and yeah, he was brilliant. I think Barami's wonderful today. And there were bits in the second half where we, sort of the first 20 minutes, we really battered them, to be honest, was when he would snap into tackles and somehow space would open up for Pereira to do his thing, and he just glides across the pitch. The third goal, the way that the ball came out to Pereira and he moved it on so quickly, fantastic. It was really great seeing him. I didn't go to the Arsenal game, so it was great to see Pereira for the first time in the flesh today.
It's sort of the ball just flows, and the game sort of flows. When it goes to him, it just flows on past and keeps progressing and keeps the whole game going forward, and the team going forward and scoring 4 goals.
Yeah, absolutely, and we looked really good on the break today, didn't we? We need to think about the defending. Just think about the squad depth now. I mean, you could argue that was our first choice team today, but look at the players who didn't play at all today. Kennedy, Amrabat, Sinclair, some really exciting players who didn't get anywhere near the pitch today. So that's exciting as well. And fair play to the defence for tightening up in the second half, because West Ham didn't have a sniff in the second half. And Payet's one of the most talented players in the league, if not Europe, and had nothing. Gomez had very little to do in the second half. They had more of the ball, but that's fine.
I think there's 3 real massive positives about that game. It's obviously the result. Obviously, it's one of the best away days we've had in recent memory. Just can't overstate how exciting it was to be there. It's just absolutely mental. It's one of those ones you want to. That's why you're a football fan, for those sort of afternoons. But getting back into the game before half time, and I said to Andy, right, we can start again now. And he said, no, Mike, it's better than that. We don't just start again. West Ham have gone in with their heads down, and we go in with our heads up. And I thought, okay, perhaps a little bit optimistic there, because the first half performance wasn't amazing, but we capitalised on that. So we're getting back into the game and then capitalising it straight away from the get-go, foot on their throat as much as we could. It wasn't. It's not as if it was like Man United against Cheshire United or something, but we made the most of our opportunities and went for it and really dominated. And it could have been 4, 5, 6 in the end. So getting in at half-time level, capitalising on that momentum, and then seeing that game through incredibly well. Those substitutions that Matsari made, I was a bit dubious about Akaka coming on, but that enormous guy, wherever they got him from, I mean, he looks like a phone box in a football kit. But he did an amazing job. And I'd
love to know, it was his second touch that put the ball in the back of the net, which could have been 5, which is offside. But I'd like to know exactly how many minutes he actually stay on the pitch.
Doesn't matter though, does it? Because he really did the job, and that's kind of what I mean about that performance.
It's like worry though, he went off.
Well, he'll be all right. To get him in an ice bath or something, and he'll be fine. I'm not rubbing him down, that's for certain. But but just the way, those 3, that was a complete performance. The players did well, and I thought the coach did well. It's probably get a bit over-enthusiastic, but those 3 things are really good for us. And we're up and running in the Premier League. This was a game that we didn't want to lose.
But West Ham were the team that almost got us up and running last year. That home game against them was the one that really got us going.
Interestingly, 2 comments after the game stood out. One, Capoue saying first 30 minutes really bad, but then we played with our heart. And Deeney's given an interview to 5 Live in which he talked about that West Ham were mugging us off by flicking the ball around at 2-0 up. And that determination and that fight has been great. So, thanks, James Collins, because last year you got our season going, and this year you've done it as well. But that's really good to see that fight and desire from Watford. Last season, we peaked when we played Liverpool at home, and we just swarmed all over them, fought for the ball, and we were brilliant. We just attacked the ball and dominated. This season we've started a bit timidly in the second half today. We really went for it, and that heart and desire that they showed was amazing. One of the great away days.
That's important, because I think Capoue looked off the pace in the first half, and he was doing that sort of thing where he sort of, flicker the head and say, it's not running for us sort of thing. It's not happening, and it's not going for us. And it felt a little bit like they were sort of leaving their foot in. It was a bit half-hearted, and I think I'm glad to hear those comments that Dave's picked up from the wires. And Andy said, they're taking the piss out of us, and Deeney obviously picked up, and that's obviously worked in our favour. But I think we have to point out that there was a lot of naffness around that first 40 minutes, and weren't enough people who looked like they wanted it, but they came good in the end.
The point I wanted to make before was talking about Amrabat not playing, for example, who a lot of people would say has been our best player, and then to come out and have a performance like we have today, it does show the strength in depth that we've got. We've had a bad start in this game. We turned it around, had a fantastic day out, fantastic result. Best substitution ever at Akaku. That was amazing. He came on buzzing around, almost scored a goal, pulled his hamstring, went off. It was amazing.
I love that. Everyone was scratching their head a little bit about the end of the transfer window. Is it have we done good business? And I think we agreed that come West Ham, when we see the team sheet, when we see the subs bench, and when we see who's missing out, then we might that's a bit of a reality, should be a reality check for Watford as to that is another step forward in terms of our progression. We're not going to have an international standard fall back in every single position, but really now if someone goes off, that there's someone good coming on. I thought Isaac's success was great when he came on. He was exactly what we needed. Continued to take the game to West Ham, even though we were ahead. We had that 2-goal cushion, and like I said, could have gone 5, could have been 6. It wouldn't. They were good chances, and I like the way that Isaac's success drove forward and just asked questions. We were asking questions. We thought going into this game, we thought they'd be offensively, West Ham would be threatening, and we knew they would be, and we sort of succumbed to that very early on. But there's always a chance with their defence, and once we sensed blood. It was great, and that's where people like Isaac's success look like will come into their own, because he was given a bit of a free roll of the dice, if you like, against Arsenal. The game was gone, and he came on and made things happen. So those guys, we ended the game without Troy or Iggy on the pitch. People said that couldn't happen. It can, and just that squad depth is something that we should never take for granted. These are good players. The thing now is, can they be utilised properly, and can they knit together so we don't have that first 35 minutes where they look disinterested, discombobulated, and not playing as a team.
Dave, what was the best goal?
Say Deeney's was technically the best, because yes, it was an error, but it's how quickly he turned and got the ball up and over the defenders are coming back and the goalie. So it wasn't just how precise the finish was, it was the speed at which he did it, and he hasn't done everything necessarily at full speed this season, so that was good. And
he made the mistake, to get himself in that position, and he took it.
Yeah, he did. He made the mistake. It was great. It was really good to see, and I think that really was the best goal. Yeah,
the most important goal out of our 4.
You could argue that Igalo's is not just because it got us back in the game when we were really bad, but because that boy needs to start scoring again. And it was a very Igalo-like goal. It was reminded me of the one at Chelsea that was at Stamford Bridge at Christmas last season. Comes down the left, comes inside, shoots, deflection, goal. Doesn't matter how it happens, he scored, and his body language changed after that. And I also think it was important today. Andy talked about the substitutions. We took Deeney and Igalo off today, and we did that from a position of strength where they both scored, and the subs improved on what we had. And that's something that didn't happen at all last season. They barely came off, and when they did, it was a desperate throw of the dice and nothing changed. This season, they both came off, and their replacements made a positive impact on the game.
I love Capoue's goal. It just keeps his mojo going. He's someone that needs his dander up to be playing, to be getting the most out of him. And you could see how much that goal meant to him. I love the fact that all the Watford players were down celebrating. Virtually felt like the whole team were down there in front of us, all piling in on top of each other. It felt like, this is back, we're a team again. But I think Capoue's scoring is so important. I love the emphatic nature of the finish. Smashed it in. F you, I'm going to score, we're going to win the game. And just keeping him rolling is going to be really important for us. Keeping him fit is going to be important as well.
Igalo, always believe in your soul. You got the power to know you're indestructible. Always believe it. Igalo. Oh.
You're listening to From the Rookery End.
Mike's surname is Parkin, and he has a son called Arlo. And this is our feature, Michael Parkinson.
Hello, Arlo, and thank you for once again joining us on Michael Parkinson.
No problem.
Now, Watford have won away at West Ham today, 4-2. What did you think of that?
They should have scored more goals.
They should have scored more than 4. Is 4 not enough? How many should they have scored?
5.
Perfect. Thank you again, Arlo. Cheers for now.
Bye.
Do not scratch your ears. You're listening to From the Rookery End.
Andy, next, we have a game against Manchester United. I wouldn't, we with Paul on the previous podcast from Denver, we talked about, he said, he didn't expect us to get any points from the first 5. We've already got...
Boo, Paul, boo.
Well, he's maybe protecting his emotions. We've got 4 now, so it feels like we're not going to have to... We don't have to go and win that game for points and all the rest of it and expectation. What do you want next week in terms of for this progress of this team that we didn't see in the first half, but we saw a team in the second half? What do you think they need from next week's game against Manchester United?
I don't think we need to necessarily get points out of it, if I'm honest. I think just a performance. I mean, we've been unlucky against Arsenal, we've been unlucky against Chelsea. No, not unlucky against Arsenal, we shot ourselves in the foot, but unlucky against Chelsea. We've got another one of the so-called big 4, top 6, whatever, coming to the Vic, and a good performance. And I think realistically, on the back of this, I feel like we could get something out of it, if I'm honest. Before today, I think, momentum that we've gained from today is going to be crucial because, Paul might have been a bit underestimating in his points tally to this point, but realistically, we could have gone to Burnley away on Monday in a couple of weeks' time, sort of feeling like with 1 point on the board in the bottom 3, thinking we have to win this game. This is a must-win game. Not now, and potentially adding to that tally on Sunday. If we can go with momentum and go, we should win that. And it may sound a bit strange, but it's that mentality of being out of the bottom 3, having a win behind us, and enjoying it again, and knowing that they can do stuff. And I think that today is massive. Not only coming back from 2-0 down. The win itself is just absolutely massive because it gives us momentum going forward into games like Burnley away on a Monday night.
Momentum is the word. Man United have got beaten by Man City. They'll be hungover. We've given the Premier League a wake-up call today. We've come from 2-0 down away. Don't care who you're playing. If that's a Championship, Division 1, the Premier League, the first Premier League away side to win at the London Stadium. Get that in the history books. But keeping that momentum going is important. We don't need to fear Man United. That's a free hit for us now. And they'll go out there, they'll play like they did today. We might win, we might lose, we might draw. Speaking the obvious, obviously, but we don't have to, like Andy said, the points don't matter because we've got a free hit at it. And the beauty of it is we might land that free hit.
It has been a wonderful away day with the 4-2 win away at West Ham. We're back next week, another podcast. Remember, follow us on all social media at Watford Podcast. Thank you, David.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Andy.
No problem.
And thank you, Mike.
No problem. Thank you, Watford. Come on, you Hornets. Get in there. 4-2, yes!